I never thought I'd come home to find my HOA president handcuffed in my own living room. She was standing there frozen, caught red-handed by the cops after breaking in with a stolen spare key. That image burned into my mind, her perfect hair, that smug badge, and the look on her face when she realized her authority didn't mean a damn thing. My name's Marcus Chen. A few months before that day, I was just a guy trying to start over after a rough divorce. Oak Ridge Estates looked like the kind of place that promised peace, quiet streets, trimmed lawns, neighbors who waved politely. I thought I'd found calm. What I didn't realize was that I'd just moved into a dictatorship disguised as a neighborhood association. And its self-appointed ruler was a woman named Karen Mitchell. Karen wasn't just the HOA president, she was the HOA. She wore that title like a crown. The very first day I met her, she stood in my doorway holding a clipboard and a fake smile, the kind that hides teeth behind politeness. "Welcome to the neighborhood, Marcus," she said. "Just so you know, we take community standards very seriously around here." 48 hours later, I got my first violation notice. My crime curtains visible from the street. Apparently the color didn't meet visual harmony requirements. I thought it was a joke until I saw the HOA letterhead and her signature underneath. Then came the flood. My mailbox was the wrong shade of black. My garden hose was coiled counterclockwise. My recycling bin, she claimed, was misaligned by 3 degrees. Each citation came with a printed paragraph from some obscure bylaw she'd probably written herself. I started closing my blinds just to feel some privacy. Then she fined me again for creating a hostile exterior. Karen had a way of making insanity sound official. During HOA meetings, she bragged about how responsible residents invited her into their homes to ensure aesthetic consistency. The first time she invited herself over to inspect mine, I laughed and said no. She looked stunned, like the word no didn't exist in her vocabulary. From then on, I was marked. The visits started coming more often. Knock-knock Karen at my door claiming someone smelled something strange or heard suspicious noises. She said she had to check for potential violations. Each time I stood my ground and told her she wasn't welcome inside. But something about her eyes, cold and titled, told me this wasn't over. Then things got weird. Little signs, subtle but unnerving. A flower pot slightly moved. Footprints in the garden too big to be mine. My front doormat flipped upside down. At first I told myself I was imagining it. Maybe I bumped something. Maybe the gardener. But then, I came home from a weekend trip to muddy footprints trailing from my foyer into the hallway. That was the moment it hit me someone had been inside. And deep down, I already knew who. The next morning I took every piece of HOA paperwork I had, every ridiculous citation, every letter, and went to the police. That's when I met Detective Janet Rodriguez. She was calm, sharp-eyed, and serious in a way that made me feel both safe and exposed. I told her everything from the curtains to the footprints. She flipped through the papers and said, "If what you're saying is true, Marcus, this isn't just harassment, this is criminal trespassing." But without proof, she couldn't act. It would be my word against Karen's. That night, sitting alone on the couch, I started to question everything. Was I overreacting? Maybe I'd let my resentment twist things. Maybe Karen really was just overzealous. I'd been through a messy divorce. I was already on edge. Part of me wanted to give up, pack up, move somewhere quieter. But another part, the part that refused to be bullied, wouldn't let go. I remembered Detective Rodriguez's words without proof, so we came up with a plan. Cameras, tiny ones, hidden around the house. 2 officers, plain clothes, stationed inside while I followed my normal routine. I felt like I was living in a crime show. But this wasn't TV. This was my life, my home, my sanity. Thursday evening. Same schedule as always. I leashed up Bailey, my golden retriever, and left through the front door right on time. If Karen was watching, and she always was, she'd see me leave. Inside, officers Maria Gonzalez and James Thompson waited, watching live feeds from the laptop in my office. At 6:47 p.m., the camera caught her. Karen Mitchell in her tailored blazer scanning the street before pulling a shiny brass key from her purse. She slid it into the lock like she'd done it 100 times before. The door opened. She stepped inside. She didn't even hesitate. She headed straight for the living room, phone in hand, muttering to herself about decor violations. She took pictures of my bookshelf, criticizing the titles, the coffee table, the rug, like she was cataloging evidence for a case only she believed in. She was so absorbed that she didn't see the officers until one of them cleared her throat. "Ma'am," Officer Gonzalez said, calm but firm. "Would you mind telling us what you're doing in this residence?" Karen spun around so fast her phone slipped from her hand, shattering on the floor. Her face drained of color. This is an official HOA inspection," she stammered, flashing her badge like it was a police warrant. Officer Thompson asked, "Do you have permission from the homeowner to enter?" Karen's chin lifted. "I don't need permission. As HOA president, I have full authority to ensure compliance. I'm protecting property values. You should be thanking me." Gonzalez looked unimpressed. "Ma'am, HOA rules are civil. Breaking into someone's home is a crime." That's when Karen panicked. She tried to leave. Thompson stepped into her path. "Am I being detained?" she demanded, voice shaking. "Yes, ma'am," Gonzalez replied. Karen's composure cracked. She grabbed her phone, what was left of it, and started screaming into the cracked screen. "They're harassing me. False imprisonment. Unlawful detainment." Her voice echoed through my living room as she called her husband on speaker, hoping for backup. But when the officers calmly explained the situation, the silence that followed was deafening. "Ma'am," Gonzalez said finally, "you're being detained for unlawful entry and criminal trespassing." The click of the handcuffs was louder than it should have been. Metallic final. Later, the neighbors said they could hear her yelling all the way down the street as she was escorted to the patrol car. "You'll regret this. I am the HOA," she shrieked, while people peeked through curtains and filmed with their phones. Someone actually clapped. I stayed inside, watching through the blinds. I didn't feel triumphant, just exhausted. For the first time in months, I felt like my house was actually mine again. By morning, the whole neighborhood knew. The self-proclaimed Queen of Oak Ridge Estates had fallen. People who'd once whispered about her started talking, really talking. One by one, residents came forward with their own stories. She'd fined an elderly couple for having the wrong color mulch. She'd ordered someone to repaint their door because it clashed emotionally with the next house. One woman even admitted Karen had entered her backyard for inspection. That weekend, the HOA called an emergency meeting. Standing room only. Karen wasn't there, obviously. The vote to remove her was unanimous. No debates, no hesitation. It was like watching a regime collapse. But the story didn't end with her arrest. When the case went to court, the investigation revealed just how far she'd gone. Karen had used old HOA keys to enter at least 3 other homes. Her computer contained detailed files on residents' names, addresses, photos from inside their houses. She'd ranked people by threat level with handwritten notes like, "Marcus Chin, unstable, possible, non-compliant personality." She'd even guessed my finances based on my furniture. Her lawyer tried to spin it, said she was just protecting community standards. But when the judge read the charges, 2 years probation, 300 hours of community service, and $10,000 in fines, she stood there like marble. Still in her mind, she hadn't done anything wrong. I went to the sentencing mostly to see it end. The evidence was displayed on a projector photo she'd taken, the files she'd kept. It was like seeing someone's obsession laid bare. Then, against her lawyer's advice, Karen insisted on speaking. She stood up, straightened her blazer, and began lecturing the entire courtroom about the importance of maintaining order in modern neighborhoods. She said her actions had preserved property values and that people like me were diluting community pride. When the prosecutor asked, "Do you believe you have the right to enter any home within your HOA?" she didn't even blink. "Yes," she said. You could hear people gasp. The judge leaned back, staring at her like she was some rare specimen of arrogance. Karen kept going. She compared her HOA badge to a police warrant. She said being president meant she was a neighborhood officer of the law. That was it. The judge's face went cold. You could almost feel the weight of finality in the room. Her reign was over. After the trial, I walked home through streets that finally felt peaceful. The lawns still looked perfect, the houses still matched, but the air felt different. Free somehow. That night I sat on my porch with Bailey sleeping beside me, listening to the kind of silence that doesn't make you uneasy anymore. The same porch where I used to keep the blinds closed, afraid of being watched. I didn't celebrate. I didn't even feel angry anymore. Mostly I felt relief and a strange, quiet satisfaction knowing the balance had finally been restored. Karen Mitchell believed her little badge gave her the right to control everyone around her. She thought she was the law. But here's the thing about people like that: when you strip away the title, the clipboard, and the illusion of power, all that's left is fear, and sooner or later, fear gets caught. Because no matter how tight you try to control others, there's one rule even the HOA can't rewrite. You don't break into someone's home and expect to walk out free.